field trip, as you know, there is a $10 fee. And so as to make my life easier, they're suggesting that you take this form over directly to Needles Hall with your $10 or your credit card or however you handle money and pay up. My name is Jean Andrey, and I am a professor in the Department of Geography and Environmental Management. And I teach a faculty level course called Introduction to Environmental Research Methods, but it's really applied statistics. And then I teach some geography courses, a couple of fundamentals courses and a transport course. I think that a lot of farm kids are really interested in geography. I remember riding, one of my first recollections of a kid, I was on top of a hay wagon loaded with hay bales, and the storm was coming in. I remember Dad trying to say, well, we got just enough time to get the load into the barn. I mean, that whole thing of sort of a human and natural environment sort of mingling, and that's what the discipline's about. When I was in high school, I thought I wanted to be a teacher, and of course I ended up being a teacher, but at one point, I thought I would like to be a math teacher, or maybe a phys ed teacher. And I liked math, and I liked phys ed. But then my grade 13 teacher in geography made it so interesting, and I thought, well, maybe I'll start in geography. And of course, I never left, you know. Students look at this side, and they never ask about it. They don't know if I'm saying it with tongue-in-cheek, or if I'm absolutely sincere, and I never tell them. I think I have pretty good classroom skills, but I mean, the learning doesn't just occur in the classroom. I mean, and you don't try to design a course just so that they get everything they need out of a classroom. You do it by how you design your courses, what kinds of readings you assign, like how you get them to do active things in the classroom. And then, of course, there is a component on you as the lecturer, but like, you know, there's humor, there's being outrageous, you know. I have one section where I'm trying to explain the differences between quantitative and qualitative research, and I'm trying to get them the point that both sides will argue that they have the best insights into knowledge. And so when I'm doing the qualitative, I put on my Anne of Green Gables hat, and when I'm doing the quantitative, I put on my hardhat, and I debate with myself, and I tell myself back and forth what an idiot position that was, you know, and then anyway, so, you know, you can have some fun.
Is that correct?
Well, you're right, but I think they're actually, the things you say are actually bigger than that. Like in my first year classes, I'll often say, you know, is anybody from you know, another province, or is anybody from a farm? And I'll ask those questions, and you know, and then I'll share a little bit of my background. And you're right, a lot of the rural kids, they like to come up and say, I'm from the farm too, I'm from the country too, you know, my dad's a dairy farmer, or it's nice, yeah. When they ask a question, often when you're going to answer it, you have to pause, and you actually have to rethink it through, because you hadn't thought about it in that perspective, like, why isn't it like this, or why didn't that happen? So that's good, because then it gets you to think through principles. But the other thing is sometimes they actually ask questions that nobody knows the answer to. So, you know, you begin to think, and you begin to reason. And you know, they're so excited about, and they, you know, I think when you're learning a subject, the world seems simpler. It isn't until you actually know quite a bit about the field that you realize how little you know, right? And so one of the wonderful things about students is that they ask the big questions in that raw way, as if there was a straightforward answer. And that gets you to think. Because sometimes I think when you're close to a field, there's a danger that you stop asking the big questions, because you know that you yourself will probably never answer them, right? So classrooms are fun, students are fun. It's interesting that most of my work is about transportation, which is such an urban phenomena, because I must say, you know, while I love transportation because I love the numbers, like I love data, and I try to get my students to love data. But I must say, as a person, transportation, it does not inspire me. I like the headspace for transportation, but my heart is in the land, so, you know, it's a good discipline for me. My biggest piece of advice, and this is probably every prof, is just think. Like, think, is this reasonable? Use your you know, your common sense and say, could this really be the answer? Does this really make sense? We were using the data on radiation from the afternoon before, and so I would bring it in, and we would have a test doing some work with it, but it was from yesterday's data and yesterday's readings. And if they had just been awake enough to know, some of the interpretation for the data would have just come from the fact that they remembered it was warm or not warm yesterday, right? Because you give them all this data and they go, oh my gosh. Well, it's fun. I'm an extrovert, I think, is part of it, but it's fun to watch people learn.